This is Atomic Shinobi, and today I'm going to narrate a movie on what if Naruto was betrayed by Sasuke in Land of Waves. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Now, wasting no more time, let's start the story.
12. Year-old Uzumaki Naruto let out a painful gasp. It consumed every molecule of his body. Not unexpected, considering his body had just been subjected to a barrage of ice-tipped senbon needles. The boy was used to pain, of course. He was from Konoha, one of the 5 main shinobi villages. As the Jinchuriki of the village, you experience pain from an early age on all levels: emotional, physical, and mental. Being stabbed, poisoned, beaten, told you were useless, that no one loved you, that no one would miss you, and that your parents, if they existed at all, were either whores for women or bastard men. Not much better was the academy where he learned to be a shinobi. Instructors would make fun of him, his aspirations to become Hokage, and undermine his training and progress as a shinobi in general. He either liberated ninja weapons from trash cans or purchased cheaply made weapons from various stores. He persevered nonetheless. After all, he belonged to the Uzumaki clan, and under any set of circumstances, members of that clan never give up. Unfortunately, no one from Konoha ever informed him that he was descended from a clan that included people with Uzumaki ancestry. Now do you see, loser? Your life was meant to be used to save me. Someone who has far more worth in his hand than you do in your entire body. Sasuke scoffed, hiding his smirk from Naruto's view because the Uchiha was standing behind him. Naruto cried out, "Bastard, you used me as a human shield," as Sasuke restrained him. "Of course I did, you pathetic idiot. Why wouldn't I? I'm a Uchiha. An elite. The elite are the strongest in the world. An elite like myself sacrifices the weaklings of the world like you so we don't have to risk getting ourselves hurt by the filth that have the audacity to oppose us. You are weak. You have no business living in this world any more than you have the right to stand near an elite like me," replied Sasuke as he clenched his grip. In response, Naruto heard Sasuke growl angrily at him. "Says the guy who is afraid of being hit by a bunch of needles. If you were truly an elite, you would not be scared of a little pain," Satsu said. Sasuke yelled, "Scared? You dare excuse an elite shinobi like myself of being scared? Let's see just how scared you are by throwing you into the water below," and then threw Naruto over the bridge and out of the ice mirrors surrounding them. The phony hunter Nin, who was Haku, was shocked to see this happen. Haku angrily demanded, "He was your comrade. Why would you betray him like that?" "Because I'm a Uchiha. An Uchiha can sacrifice anyone and everyone he wants to win a fight. It doesn't matter if they are friends with us. It doesn't matter if they trained with us for years. It doesn't matter if they are born from the same village as us. They're weak. They're all expendable. Everyone who is not Uchiha is expendable," declared Sasuke from behind his mask. Haku asked, "Getting more senbon needles ready, I see. And how exactly do you plan to beat me now that your human shield has been thrown away?" Knowing he had accidentally given in to his rage and thrown Naruto's body away too soon, Sasuke scowled at the question. The Uchiha gritted his teeth even harder in rage as he saw the masked hunter Nin prepare more needles and realized he might have been too quick to remove Naruto as his personal shield. In partnership with Naruto, as Naruto drowned, he had almost passed out from the shock of falling into the water at the height he was thrown. There was very little movement in him, if any, because his body was still flooded with needles. Not nearly enough to sustain him. The blonde boy in Jinchuriki pondered his life up to that moment as he sank to the bottom of the ocean. And arrived at the one clear conclusion that it sucked. He had remained devoted to Konoha. In spite of everything, he had endured the abuse from Konoha. Their undermining his education. Their derision of his fantasy. His wish to become Hokage and prove to everyone that he was a significant person. Who, though, was he kidding? What a joke his dream was. Naruto was aware of the joke as well. When he grew up, he only held onto it because he had nothing else to cling to. What else could one cling to? Nothing. Nothing at all. The Hokage persisted in trying to explain to him that the title of village leader equated to being the most significant individual in the community. That because of your dependability and willingness to give back without being asked, you were loved and respected by everyone in the village. Naruto didn't realize until now, in the vast blue ocean and deepening darkness, that nearly everything the Sandaime had told him about Konoha and his role as Hokage was untrue. Undoubtedly a way to prevent the village Jinchuriki from acting rashly or foolishly, such as fleeing Konoha because of the abuse being inflicted upon him. Is this really it? Should I pass away this way? Not saving the people I love, but drowning in the water at the hands of a sly asshole I mistakenly thought was my teammate? Not at all. I'm hoping to survive. I'm itching to battle. I want revenge, revenge, revenge. Naruto furiously considered this as he noticed the darkness growing. Only for his body to become completely covered in red chakra, and in a matter of seconds, he went completely unconscious. Konoha after 4 years. A lone figure made her way down the road toward Konoha's gates. There was a click, clack sound from his wooden sandals as he moved. He wore a crimson trench coat with a large black spiral on the back, black pants, a shirt, and a large straw hat similar to what a monk would wear on his head. The man had dark shades covering his eyes and a black cloth covering his face, but it was obvious that something was wrong with his eyes because of the faint red glow emanating from behind them. An impressive katana was strapped around his waist. It was shielded by a black sheath with crimson lining, and at the top, where the figure's thumb rested and nearly caressed the symbol, was the Uzu symbol. The reason this figure was traveling to Konoha was that he needed to crash a wedding. At the gate stood an emotionless Anbu guard, saying, "Halt, state your business." With a serene but unintelligible tone, the figure inquired, "Is today the day of the wedding between Uchiha Sasuke and Hyuga Hinata?" The second Anbu said, "It is." "Why?" as his hand flexed slightly in preparation to grab his sword. The figure said, somewhat joyfully, though it was unclear why, "Oh good. I almost feared I was too late to attend. I take it everyone is there right now. Hence why I see no one walking the streets behind you. It's by invitation only. Only the Hokage can give out such things to the most important of people. Present your invitation to us and you may pass," instructed the initial Anbu. The figure softly answered, reaching into his shirt pocket for his invitation. "Ah yes. My invitation. Of course. Silly me. Here's my invitation right here," he said. After a mere 2 seconds, the two Anbu were completely destroyed by a single kunai that had embedded itself in each of their temples. As soon as that occurred, 2 more Anbu with headbands bearing the spiral symbol swooped in and concealed the dead bodies. The figure took his hand out of his pocket and carried on as though the events that had transpired only moments before had not happened. While all of this was going on, an army of shadows advanced into Konoha, eliminating the different shinobi on duty and using the darkness to shield particular areas of the village. The only indication that everything was going as planned with this mysterious man's arrival into the village was the sly smile tucked away behind the cloth covering his face. The figure looked around Konoha, at the distinctly deserted streets, as he made his way to the location of the wedding. Not unexpected, considering that nearly every resident of the village was attending the wedding. Everyone from outside Konoha who was anybody was present as well. The daimyos, along with the other 4 cages, had come to witness what seemed to be a grand wedding that Konoha was throwing for Uchiha, the Biju killer, Sasuke. The young Konoha shinobi prodigy who seemingly put an end to the all-powerful Kyuubi's life. Something that was beyond the powers of the Yondaime Hokage. When the boy returned from Nami, they loved him for it. The Sandaime Hokage's law against the boy holding the Biju was repealed within an hour. A massive celebration was held in Sasuke's honor, and no one in Konoha seemed to care that an innocent young genin and Jinchuriki had to die for this miracle to happen. Hee. If only they were aware of the reality of what actually transpired all those years ago in Nami. The figure making her way to the wedding thought back to the last 4 years of traveling, training, and wandering through the elemental countries. Making things right. Exposing betrayal, deceit, truth, and lies committed by those in the shinobi community who wished to keep secrets hidden. The figure had been occupied since his liberation, with using his power to correct a number of issues that, had they gone unchecked, would have meant the end of the world and, in his imagination, even the apocalypse. Undoubtedly unsettling, it was a thought that he could have avoided. While there were still many people in the world who didn't deserve for the world to end, it wasn't as though the human race didn't deserve it to end. Especially in light of the avaricious individuals who are currently attempting to upset the universe's equilibrium in order to establish themselves as kings atop a mountain made entirely of corpses. Everyone in this village deserves to be wiped out. Why you saved that ungrateful liar for a Sandaime Hokage when facing off against Orochimaru all those years ago I will never understand. It put you at great personal risk at possibly being discovered far too soon, said a voice that only the individual could hear in his own head. You understand why, Kurama. Nobody is permitted to bring the foolish people in this village to their knees in desperation and surrender due to past transgressions. Me alone, that is. A smirking figure with the name Kurama said to the demon inside his head. Besides, my actions during the invasion here did far worse to the Sandaime than Orochimaru ever could. Months had passed since that fateful day. Finding out about Orochimaru's intentions for Konoha at the Chunin exams. to assassinate Sandaime Hokage for the reason that the professor had selected Namikaze Minato over his preferred pupil. Initially, the figure chose to do nothing at all and allow the Sannin to exact his revenge. Allow the former student of the Sandaime to burn Konoha to the ground. In a sense, instant karma because of the elderly man's incapacity to act morally. Allow one snake, concealed in a monkey's hide, to murder the other. That changed, though, when the figure realized that some innocent people in the village still needed mercy and that allowing the snake to carry out this revenge would undermine his own plans to exact revenge on Konoha. It was a small minority, mind you, but the figure had no desire to emulate the Sandaime Hokage by subjecting the innocent to pain in order to exact revenge on the guilty. Orochimaru finally struck after all those days of training, strategizing, and getting ready for the chance to exact some retribution, if only as a taste of what was to come. The figure, of course, had his own allies, and before the day of the invasion, they set about destroying the Sannin's plan. It wasn't challenging. Suna, who had once supported the village but was now in decline, was actually the main force attacking Konoha. They believed that by launching this attack, they would demonstrate the strength of their village and restore it to its former glory. To Orochimaru's dismay, when his sound nin were dismantled on the day of the attack, Suna was nowhere to be found among the invaders. His secret weapon, Suna's Jinchuriki Sabaku no Gaara, was supposed to be unstable, but on the day of the invasion, he behaved much more calmly than he had in a long time. In actuality, the red-haired boy had not only remained composed throughout his battle with the hero, Uchiha Sasuke, but he had also outmatched the brat for the most part of the combat, only being prevented from taking his life when Orochimaru gave the all-clear to begin the invasion. Naturally, nobody outside of Suna's shinobi council, Gaara, her Junin sensei Baki, and her siblings as teammates knew that the enigmatic figure had approached them in the middle of the night 1 week prior to the invasion. He'd shown evidence of their Kazuki's death at the hands of Orochimaru, and demonstrated how Gaara's seal was so badly broken that, left unchecked, it wouldn't even be able to contain Shukaku for a full year. After hearing the mysterious figure explain that Gaara's seal was never intended to keep a Biju back, they weren't surprised. That in his hurried attempt to make Suna strong, the late Kazekage had chosen to seal Shukaku into his youngest using a modified seal designed for the storage of large objects, and he believed Shukaku qualified based only on that one small detail. Shukaku was not just a big object to be sealed. Rather, it was a living, breathing entity that would not remain silent if given the chance to be heard. This was something that the Kazekage, or the person applying the seal, truly failed to realize. As intended, the seal on Gaara would contain Shukaku for a while, but only if the Biju decided to refrain from moving around too much. That the Biju would not attempt to escape his cage by moving around. Furthermore, the seal itself offered no protection against Shukaku's ability to possess Gaara or incite the boy to harbor malice. Gaara would have been the perfect Jinchuriki with a sound mental and physical state if such defense mechanisms had been in place. Furthermore, it wouldn't have hurt if the poor boy had experienced genuine love instead of being detested and viewed as a monster all the time, as the Kazekage had people do. Gaara's seal took several hours to carefully work through, something Shukaku didn't want changed to imprison him even more, but the Biju froze in fear after taking a peek behind the shades. Gaara didn't understand at first, but the red-haired boy nodded suddenly when the figure gave him a simple nod. By the time it was over, Gaara had managed to maintain his control over the sand in his gourd while the seal had been modified to suitably contain a Biju. The figure turned to face the group when they asked him why he was doing this, grinning at their startled expression and responding, "What kind of person would I be if I didn't help a fellow brother in need?" before disappearing into the darkness. Regarding the invasion, the figure picked its way through the fighting's shadows, collecting all of Konoha's dark, filthy secrets. And there were a lot of them. Not only that, but another element of the plan to prevent the Sannin from winning was carried out by his allies, who were also present in Konoha. Specifically, thwarting his scheme to call upon the 3 Hokages who had come before him to defend him against the Sandaime Hokage. In actuality, the figure was aware that, because of the way the Yondaime perished, only 2 of the previous 3 Hokages would ever be called upon by Orochimaru, and the Shinigami never voluntarily gave up the food he consumed. When it came to the Shodaime and the Nidaime Hokage, they would have been called upon by means of the sacrifices that Orochimaru had intended to make. Suddenly, an elaborate pattern of seals marking the site of the battle glowed, swarmed over the 2 items, and set the coffins ablaze in a golden, ethereal fire. Taking care of the Sannin's 4 bodyguards came next. 3 of them were promptly eliminated when seals beneath their feet exploded with the force of 10 explosive tags, thanks to the intelligence that Suna had provided regarding the invasion strategy. There was no way for them to get out of the small barrier they had ironically built for their own protection, and as a result, they suffered terrible deaths. The fourth, Tayuya, a red-haired girl, was struck by a lightning-filled seal that caused severe but not fatal injuries to her body. It just temporarily knocked her out. Furious that his plans had been derailed in such an embarrassing way, Orochimaru attempted to escape in an attempt to salvage what little strength he still had and discover why everything had fallen apart around him. If not for a hidden seal that he stepped on, which exploded and sent him flying back while severely injuring his leg, the Sandaime would have moved to pursue him. The man would have to designate a successor as Hokage due to his advanced age and the nature of the injury. Regarding the Sannin, he had reorganized alongside Kabuto and escaped to Rice Country, where one of his numerous bases could be found worldwide. However, upon arriving, the two were shocked to discover that the experiment cages were empty and the entire location had been destroyed. The lab space itself was destroyed, information was lost, and a year's worth of work's worth of knowledge was now lost. A few corpses were scattered about, those of the guards and the mindless drones who would sacrifice their lives for their master. It was too late to realize that a trap had been set, and the destruction was just a ruse to draw Orochimaru and Kabuto into it, by the time they arrived at the center of the base. Viewing the base's devastation from the outside, one might assume that Deidara, the mad bomber of Iwa, was responsible for the explosion. The Sannin and his right-hand man were now dead, so the figure and his allies moved on to other things for the next 4 years, strengthening and moving through the shadows in preparation for the impending confrontation. The figure intended for word of the snake's demise to quickly spread through Jiraiya's spy network and plunge Konoha, if not the entire elemental countries, into an uncertain state of panic. To make everyone in the shinobi world, including Kages, daimyos, missing nin, and pretty much everyone else, whisper to one another about who killed Orochimaru. Regarding Konoha, a lot of people were thinking, what the hell is going on? Not just with the invasion, but also with the who, what, and how of its demise. Orochimaru was a brilliant man with nearly unmatched intelligence, and his plans were usually executed flawlessly down to the last detail. What went wrong with the man's plan that, from the moment the signal was given, caused it to collapse and blow up in his face, literally in some cases? Many of the higher dot-ups were left perplexed, encompassing the Nara Shikaku and Sandaime. All they could conclude was that the attack had been discovered by an outside party, who then chose to interfere and sabotage it. However, there was still mystery surrounding why this outside force remained anonymous and left many uneasy, even as they gave themselves due gratitude. Suna was keeping quiet about the matter because they believed that admitting their involvement in the original scheme would worsen the situation and further strain their remaining alliance. In addition, they had more pressing and significant tasks to attend to, such as locating a suitable cage, even if it was just temporary. Furthermore, proving to the feudal lord that they were still deserving of funding was necessary when the Wind Daimyo was unexpectedly assassinated soon after, and a new one took his place. Thankfully, it appeared that the new Wind Daimyo was more sensible than the one before him and was giving Suna more money to restore their former power. Not only Suna, but others were also undergoing changes. For a Mizukage, Kiri had put an end to the civil war that the Jinchuriki had started. With Momochi Zabuza and Haku returning, the rebellion headed by one Terumi Mei had triumphed against him. In actuality, it was because of the extra assistance of a few extremely strong but enigmatic characters that the Mizukage were fought off. They even ensured that Yagura was vanquished before he could even summon his internal Biju. Many people who saw the Jinchuriki of the Three Tails in such a muted state wondered how that was the case, though. After the event on Nami, Zabuza had just about escaped with Haku, but the rebels' third party prevented him from taking the man's head. One of the masked figures simply whispered to them, "Read it," before the figures, carrying Yagura, disappeared. When asked why, the figures produced a book, a journal written by the Mizukage during his time ruling over Kiri. Naturally, after reading it, everyone quickly realized that the man they had been fighting, who also happened to be a Jinchuriki, had been someone else's puppet and had mistreated one when they were children. Yagura was under the control of someone who had the Sharingan eye, based on what was discovered in the man's journal. Telling him to despise people who use bloodlines, treating everyone badly, and acting in all respects like a despot. In the hopes that this journal would one day be discovered and reveal he was not the monster the history books would no doubt portray his actions as, the man was able to write cryptic and vague messages in it when the influence from the eye that possessed Yagura was at its weakest. Jiraiya quickly dispelled the initial assumption held by some in Konoha that Uchiha Itachi was the one behind the incident. He clarified that it wasn't him because the Mizukage had been acting violently toward bloodlines during his reign, long before Itachi turned evil. The Sannin could only conclude that there was an individual out there who possessed a Sharingan at their disposal. Maybe someone with an eye like Kakashi, or perhaps even a different Uchiha who wasn't present when Itachi killed the rest of the clan. It goes without saying that, for reasons they dared not share, it gave a few very nervous upper management personnel. The now former Sandaime Hokage had put forward Senju Tsunade, his second pupil, as a candidate for the role of successor. Unfortunately, Jiraiya, his third pupil, would have to search outside the village to locate the woman. Upon learning of Naruto's demise, the elderly Hokage had brought the man back sooner than anticipated, which infuriated the Toad Sannin. Not because he lost his godson in the traditional sense, but because Konoha lost his Jinchuriki, the weapon deterrent he was supposed to train for later. Furthermore, Jiraiya felt the boy needed to be attended to when the time was appropriate because she thought the boy was the child of prophecy, as predicted. Just for the Uchiha brat to ruin everything. That fact had infuriated Jiraiya. He was aware that, should anything happen to Minato and Kushina, the boy would be under his guardianship. But Jiraiya had, well, choked in the crucial moment of raising and tending to Naruto to make sure he was genuinely loved. He decided it would be best to let his sensei handle the brat and then just show up before him as usual when the time was appropriate. Then he would give Naruto some important information that would essentially turn the brat into a shinobi in his hands. Ultimately, Jiraiya would not only teach one last pupil, but the young man would also go on to become a well-known legend in the shinobi community, one that he could legitimately take advantage of in retirement, just as Kushina would never allow him to do with Minato if given the chance. Furthermore, why should the renowned and courageous Jiraiya of the Sannin, creator of Icha Icha Paradise, ultimate bachelor, and exceptional super pervert, be confined to raising a child? Especially not a Jinchuriki. It made no difference to Jiraiya if the boy was Minato's son. His previous pupil ought to have known better than to give the child up to him for raising. The Sannin did not think a Jinchuriki, regardless of lineage, should be given a free pass in life and had to learn that not everything was sunshine and rainbows, even though he loved Minato like a son. Tsunade wasn't in the best of moods when she was eventually located. Not at all, especially when it came to his appearance. It seemed that someone, or some unidentified group, had contacted her prior to him. Additionally, they gave her a lot of information about Uzumaki Naruto and his treatment prior to his death on a mission at the hands of his Uchiha teammate, who used him as a human shield before plunging the young man over the bridge and burying him in a muddy grave. It got worse when this unidentified person or group revealed to the woman how Konoha had praised Sasuke as a hero and called him the Biju Killer for his effort to destroy the Kyuubi and celebrated Naruto's death. Tsunade was even more enraged by the knowledge that the boy was the son of Kushina and Minato. The slug Sannin, who was descended from her grandmother Mito and was herself half Uzumaki, felt as though she had lost another loved one and again placed the blame on Konoha. Just as Minato was the son Jiraiya had always desired, and the lack of perversity the blonde man didn't have the Toad Sage tried to pass down before Kushina put a stop to that. Tsunade was the daughter that Tsunade always wanted in life. The only thing that was different was that Tsunade, who was essentially unreachable at the time due to her constant travels with Shizune, would have been there for Kushina if she had known about the pregnancy. However, no one had informed her. When Tsunade eventually learned of Kushina's pregnancy-related death, she was devastated, thinking that not only had the girl she looked up to die, but also the unborn child. She was in mourning for the loss of both of them. Only to learn that the child was not only still alive but had turned into a Jinchuriki, suffered abuse from the village, and was killed by a betraying Uchiha. And that no one, not even her former sensei or teammate, had intervened to stop it. As a grieving godfather, Jiraiya had attempted to persuade her to return as the next Hokage in order to make things right, and ensure that such incidents would not occur while she was in power. However, Tsunade had told him to screw off, threatening to beat him to death if he didn't leave her sight in the next 2 minutes. Jiraiya had warned her that if she hurt him in that way, Shizune would also become a missing nin and the woman would become one. Though he had played it off as humorous, there was a clear hint of threat in his eyes, and he was waiting to see how Tsunade would respond. Surprisingly, Tsunade responded in a manner he had not anticipated. After giving him a straight punch out of the bar, she literally kicked him out of the city they were in. After recovering, Jiraiya set out to locate Tsunade once more, but she was nowhere to be found, and not even his spy network seemed to be able to track her down. Jiraiya's sensei was not happy with his return and had to declare Tsunade missing after receiving his report on the mission's failure. The fact that Sandaime had yet another student turn into a missing nin dealt a fatal blow to his legacy and ego. Even worse, The fire daimyo was there and was not happy to learn that the Sandaime had not only turned down the title of Hokage but also betrayed Konoha over some obscure old history. At this particular moment, Danzo recognized an opportunity to further control events with his hidden Sharingan eye. He took advantage of this power and persuaded the daimyo to name him the new Hokage. To the dismay of Hiruzen, Jiraiya, and the other clan heads present in the room, it occurred. Upon witnessing the person they had supported on numerous occasions over the years become Hokage, Homura and Kaharu instantly agreed, seeing an opportunity to transform Konoha into the military force they had long desired. Konoha had not been a shining light in the rather gloomy shinobi world since then. Actually, quite the opposite. Konoha was growing darker every day, and Danzo was causing more problems for the world than he would ever be willing to acknowledge, while other places shone with light. In actuality, the War Hawk would never acknowledge that the numerous high-level missions Konoha shinobi were assigned over the years had led to an increase in enemies and problems for Konoha. That was not his perspective. Regretfully, Danzo believed that everything that was not a part of Konoha was an enemy, his enemy, specifically, of the village, and that everything else ought to be either destroyed or brought into slavery. After assuming the position of Hokage, Danzo commanded the official resuscitation of Root and the assignment of 1/3 of the most promising clans to the program in order to provide them with the proper conditioning necessary to become the village's elite shinobi. The clan heads, of course, flatly refused the order, claiming they had seen what Root does to their clansmen and would not allow any more of them to lose all emotion like Danzo's other Root shinobi. Danzo argued that such a thing would be considered treason, but Shikaku reminded him that it was against Konoha's charter for clan heads to give up so many members of their group to a Konoha organization. The Nara further reminded the new Hokage that it was illegal, one of the few laws that even the Hokage himself could not alter or break because it required clan members to voluntarily join without outside influence. Danzo was naturally very offended to learn that the village had laws that, despite his rank as Hokage, he had to abide by. Still, the man's goal was to fill his ranks with as many new members of Root as possible. The best of them would be assigned to guard him. It was not shocking when he obtained said recruits directly from the orphanage or kidnapped them from various locations across the elemental countries. Whether they had families of their own or weren't mattered. If you were taken, then you belonged to Root, and Danzo saw that as a fact. Regarding his personal role as Hokage, the man made it abundantly evident that, when decisions were made for the betterment of Konoha, he had the final say. The Shinobi Council fully supported him, and the Civilian Council readily yielded. Kurama nodded slightly to the figure he lived in and said, "Yes, indeed. Though his replacement is just as pathetic, if not more so, with the way he is running this village." Hashirama must be rolling over in his grave while Madara is no doubt laughing at him for how far it's fallen. Well, Kurama, what did you expect? Without even thinking that his actions would eventually bring the village to its knees, the man has been creating enemies left and right. Furthermore, Danzo Teme is unaware that many of his previous illicit activities were made public by the other shinobi villages, and the nations in which he was abducting children became his impersonal pawns en route. The figure, nearing his destination, thought to himself, his days as Hokage are numbered, and so are his supporters in what he's done since taking the hat. It still amazes me that the Uchiha will wed the Hyuga girl who harbored feelings for you. Their relationship makes me sick, Kurama said, his ship growling fiercely. Kurama, it's not official yet. Kurama laughed as the figure said, in fact, I intend to make this farce of a wedding go from white to bloody red very soon. Kurama said, the figure sighing regretfully at all the wasted days spent chasing the other girl. To think, it only took your allies, and long-lost family to make you realize just how much that girl cared about you. Of course, the way she beat the snot out of her cousin when he insulted you was also one for the history books. One Hyuga Hinata experienced a significant emotional shift following the news of Uzumaki Naruto's death. First, the shy girl had been all but destroyed by the news. For 2 weeks, she barricaded herself in her room and didn't come out. If it weren't for her sister, who unintentionally started a fire in Hinata and didn't intend to put it out anytime soon, the poor girl would have stayed there longer. How was it done by Hanabi? By making fun of Naruto's past. Now that the village knew the dead boy's secret, which some of them had twisted to suit their narratives, Hanabi had no real problem insulting the boy in the same way the elders did. What was Hinata going to do, anyway? What could Hanabi's ever-shy, timid, and ultimately cowardly sister do to her younger sister, whom she had never defeated in sparring? The response? Hinata lost her temper. Not only did she lose it, but she also broke through her door with such force that Hanabi was beaten nearly to death. It was as though Hanabi had unintentionally turned on Hinata's wrath and revealed to the world the painful reality that the girl could have defeated her younger sister in their spars at any time. She didn't because Hinata was a gentle, sweet, and kind girl who didn't enjoy getting into arguments with her family. Sadly, Hinata's kind disposition toward her family had somehow perished as a result of Naruto's passing. After that day, Hinata stopped being nice to her family members, main or branch, without distinction. Why ought she to? She was viewed by the main family as a helpless young child who lacked any skill in gentle fist. The branch family felt the same way about her, but they also believed that a weak Hyuga heiress would not be able to set them all free from the customs that kept the Hyuga clan main family in slavery. But after Naruto passed away, they witnessed the girl change from being kind to being icy and cruel to anyone who offended her. Neji discovered that the Chunin exam preliminaries taught him the hard way. Despite what he had heard had happened to Hanabi, he didn't think Hinata had changed all that much. The prodigy was skeptical when he heard about Hinata's angry outburst from a branch family member who was present during the beating because the boy was away on a mission at the time. Hinata was made fun of by the prodigy when it was his turn to fight her in the preliminary round, and her ire at everyone who had made fun of her crushed her memory. He continued by saying that Naruto was weak and undeserving of life, much less becoming a Konoha ninja, according to a decree from fate. That Uzumaki Naruto was just a helpless and miserable shinobi who was destined to die. In the end, Neji's battle with his cousin that day taught him a very painful truth. Before a battle, Hyuga Hinata was a monster wrapped in human flesh. Neji had only been in the fight for 5 minutes when Hinata pushed him to the ground, leaving him hardly conscious. To exacerbate the situation, Hinata publicly applied the cage bird seal to his head while giving him a death stare. Hinata eventually stopped short of causing permanent harm and advised Neji not to accept fate as the definitive answer to life's mysteries. She also said that she could have used the seal on his head at any time. So, what were you expecting? I was living in a village, and I had never heard of love before. I had no idea what the telltale signs were that she felt this way about me. You know, my education wasn't all that great, the figure thought, and Kurama nodded in agreement. Kurama asked, his vessel sighing once more, indeed, though how this wedding came about baffles me. I thought this girl's father wanted a strong heiress to rule the clan in the future? He does. However, Hinata has demonstrated that she is currently too powerful for anyone in the clan to subdue. She has so scared her own sister. The figure's mind wandered to dark thoughts of what he would do to the Uchiha if the asshole ever touched her, which is why he helped arrange this marriage with the hope that the Teme would keep her in line. You have seen her from a distance in secret and know for a fact the Hyuga vixen could beat the Uchiha easily in a fight. Though why she doesn't fight this further stuns me. Not that it matters since the wedding is about to be crashed. Provided you do get there in time to protest the union, Kurama said, aware that his vessel had been monitoring Konoha closely for the previous 4 years and was aware of Hinata's progress during that time. That fool for Uchiha wouldn't last 10 seconds with her in any way, the man said. Although I acknowledge Hinata-chan's skill, I don't think it will be easy for her to defeat this wedding Kurama. Not when Sasuke, Teme, Heishi, Teme, and Danzo. Teme have all agreed to this in the hopes that it will somehow help them. The figure grinned and said, fortunately, I have quite a few tricks up my sleeve to nullify this. Kurama grinned too. How lucky you were to have an arranged marriage already set up between you because your mother and hers were good friends growing up. You must have the devil's luck in you. That's the only way I can see you being this lucky, Kurama said, the figure grinning even more behind the cloth covering his face. Luck is not a factor in this. Now pardon me. I have a wedding to ruin and Uchiha to make pay for his previous transgressions, the figure said to himself before being stopped by 2 root nin standing guard at the wedding location, which was a temple that resembled a cathedral in Konoha. A root nin said in a cold, emotionless voice, halt. This place is forbidden to outsiders unless you have an invitation. The figure with the pair of root nin said, I am well aware of the wedding happening inside. That's why I am here, and he glanced at his sword. The second root nin, an Aburame by the look of his shades and camouflage, said, then you won't mind surrendering your sword and providing us with your invitation as proof of being invited. The figure said, of course. Let me see here. Invitation. Invitation. Ah, here is my invitation. Before cutting the seal on his sword sheath and unleashing the weapon like a bullet, striking one of the roots in the nose. The man instantly died as a result of the force of the hit, sending bone and cartilage straight into his brain, and he collapsed to the ground. The second root nin cried out, what th? Ack, just before he felt a fist go straight through his chest, right through the place where his heart was. The figure said, "It is well that you and your comrade are nothing more than mindless emotionless drones in the service of a crazed warhawk of a leader. The guilt of killing you and your master will weigh less heavily on my soul." Before removing his hand and observing the body fall, flicking the blood off his now claw-covered hands. The figure laughed and Kurama said, "Only 2 guards? The fool isn't serious about protecting this place from the outside with just 2 emotionless guards? I assume the majority, if not all, of his root nin are inside to protect the bastard, given how we have been reducing their numbers in just the last year alone faster than he can replace them. It makes sense that he would have them watching them given the presence of all the cages, their escorts, and even the daimyos with their own bodyguards." The figure thought as 2 masked shinobi with Uzu on them moved in and gathered the fallen bodies. The man is so paranoid people will try to kill him that his agents have agents assigned to kill them if given the order simply if they sneeze without being allowed to by this guy, the figure said. The figure moved toward the door, gesturing to his shadowy operatives to ascend to the temple's summit and proceed inside. The mysterious figure waited for them to do so for a moment before slightly opening the door and going inside the spacious temple. He could hear the excited chatter inside about how the legendary Biju killer was going to wed the notorious Hyuga, Icy Heart, Hinata and create a powerful alliance between their clans. There were people there from both inside and outside the village, but not everyone seemed to be in a good mood. Given that they knew Hinata had no romantic feelings for the Uchiha, the majority of the rookies who graduated together didn't seem to be pleased about this. The senseis of these rookies, some of the elite Junin seated in the room, were likewise in the same enraged mood as their former pupils. Only Kakashi did not, and he was happy that at least one of his students survived to become a married man and raise a family with a girl. After Sakura was brutally murdered on a routine mission to deliver documents to the Fire Daimyo just 2 years after becoming Chunin, and Naruto had been dead for the previous 4 years, the one-eyed Junin came to the conclusion that Team 7 was, in fact, cursed. Nobody was aware of Sakura's killer or the reason behind the brutal killing. All they knew was that the girl had died gradually and painfully, and that she had known who had attacked her because of the horrified expression on her face and the way her one surviving eye hung out of its socket. This person did not relocate her when they first met, as evidenced by the fact that the location where she was found indicated a direct route to the Fire Country capital. The fact that there was no disturbance in the vicinity also meant that Sakura and her attacker did not fight immediately, but rather spoke for a while before things went wrong and, based on the 1 pair of sandal marks that were discovered in addition to Sakura's, concluded that their conversation was over. The blow had been severe for Kakashi, who had made the decision to train Sasuke even more in order to make him as strong as possible as the lone member of Team 7 still standing. Despite what had happened in Nami, he did not think Sasuke had sacrificed Naruto. The fake hunter Nin had revealed what the Uchiha had done after Haku had put him in a fake death state. He then swiftly removed Zabuza before the Konoha Junin could kill him, leaving Kakashi stunned until it was time to deal with Gato's horde of goons. The fact that the Nami people banded together to create their own army was fortunate because otherwise, Kakashi and his surviving students would not have made it. After the fight was over, it was found that Gato died when some stupid thugs accidentally gave the short man the elbow in the face while defending him, causing him to fall off the bridge and into the water below. If the fall had not killed the man, the water certainly would have because of the impact, which probably broke a few bones, and the man had already had Haku break his army before. Tazuna had told everyone what had happened since hearing what Haku had said when Inari had inquired about Naruto's whereabouts. Although he didn't want to accept the words of a missing nin, there was something about the masked shinobi that convinced the elderly bridge builder that it was true. Needless to say, after that brief announcement, there were a lot of conflicting emotions about how to handle Team 7. They were relieved that Gato was gone, on the one hand. They were liberated from a despot who sought to rob them of their joy, life, and everything else they treasured. However, Team 7's Uchiha Sasuke had betrayed his own teammate and their newfound hero, who had given them the motivation to rise up and take on Gato. To combat their nation's oppressor and tyrant. Not only that, but the girl with the pink hair openly mocked Naruto for being a clumsy idiot who, in her opinion, fell off the bridge after tripping over something. When Sasuke finally came to, Kakashi had asked him about it, and the Uchiha had replied with a sly smile on his face, as if it had been the best choice he had ever made. The fact that he said this in front of all the Nami people didn't help. With his 2 remaining students, Kakashi had to escape the gathering crowd of people who were angry that a hero had died for them at the hands of people he had once trusted. Over the years, it had raised a great deal of tension between Nami and Fire, but nothing was ever really settled. In addition to refusing to rename the bridge they had given Sasuke and Nami. Konoha also declined to punish them for the mission of moving from rank C to A. In the minds of those in Nami, the Uzumaki Naruto bridge was going to remain as it was, come hell or high water. They would much sooner return to Gato's harsh rule than give it a new name that has anything to do with Uchiha Sasuke. I can't just abandon Sasuke even though I know what he did was wrong. Glancing around at everyone present, Kakashi thought, it would be like I have forsaken Obito and the eye he gave me. Jiraiya, seated next to him, appeared to be growing more anxious. The man seemed to be feeling very uneasy about this. The day he chose to spy on Tsunade in the hot springs, before she caught him and beat him to within an inch of his life, was the only occasion Kakashi knew the man felt such a thing. I'm not supposed to be here. With dread mounting with every second that went by, Jiraiya thought, I should be out of Konoha and using my spy network to find out who killed off the Akatsuki. The Akatsuki had encountered numerous issues over the past 2 years, and every report Jiraiya had received suggested that the majority of the problems were the result of one man's efforts. A lone individual bearing the Uzu mark on the rear of his trench coat, indicating that he belonged to the long.thought.to.be. Extinct or fragmented Uzumaki clan. According to what was known about the enigmatic individual, he would track down Akatsuki members and ruthlessly kill them in the open in a flash of crimson. Because of this, the man's name, Crimson Uzu, serves as his only means of identification at this time. Hoshigaki Kisame and Uchiha Itachi were the first to fall. Orochimaru's death had left them looking for the person or people who were responsible. The presence of a powerful individual or individuals within the organization would have greatly benefited the group as a whole. Unfortunately, Crimson Uzu was not in the mood for the 2 Akatsuki members to join the group. He referred to them as a group of power. Hungry fools who would turn against one another if their plans were ever successful. Kisame took that insult hard and tried to use his trusty Samahata to take down his now declared opponent, but he was unable to do so because of the enemy's speed and type of sword. In his final moments, Kisame witnessed his murderer wielding a unique sword, and the force with which that one horizontal stroke ended his life was breathtaking. When the sword emerged from its sheath, Kisame saw that his opponent's blade was crimson red in color, sparking like lightning, and that it had even begun to create fire. This meant that the flesh was automatically cauterized just seconds after it was ripped open by the blade as it cut straight through the body. Itachi moved to flee in order to report his findings to Pain because he felt that his chances of winning his own fight were slim given the death of his partner. If he hadn't found himself immobile prior to the realization that he needed to move, he would have been successful. How could this have happened? Chakra chains wrapped the man from his feet to his legs, then up to his arms and neck, with the sharp tips of the chains piercing the man's eyes and directly entering his brain. And that was all before Itachi's body was viciously torn apart from the waist upward by Crimson Uzu. A dried up hand, some hair, and a single droplet of blood. Enough for a single DNA scan to determine whether the blood belonged to the Uchiha. Were the only remnants that were returned to Konoha. Sasuke was naturally extremely enraged at having his one goal rejected, so he made the decision to finish this one now rather than later. Naturally, Sasuke picked Hinata for this take without much thought. Not only was she strong, but she was also far stronger than any other girl their age or any of his fangirls. However, Hinata loved Naruto more than anything and continues to love him. He intended to further irritate Naruto from the afterlife by getting married and starting a family with what might be the only Konoha girl who harbored feelings for the pitiful fool. That made Deidara and Sasori the second pair of fallen Akatsuki. They had attacked Suna and were tasked with obtaining Gaara so that his Biju could be sealed into the statue. Not only did Crimson Uzu ambush them, but so did other people donning headbands bearing the Uzu symbol. This contributed to the rumors that Uzu and the Uzumaki clan were still active, even though neither Jiraiya's spy network nor Danzo's route could corroborate them. Many were surprised when the third pair of Akatsuki, the Jashin priest Hidan and the notorious zombie brothers, Kakuzu, who had previously been from Taki, suddenly fell just 2 weeks later. Among all the Akatsuki members, those two were considered to be the closest to immortality. One had 5 hearts, and the other had struck a deal with a god that would grant him eternal life in return for violent sacrifices of people almost every day. After that, Pain, Konan, Zetsu, and obviously Totobi were the only members still alive. Jiraiya had been deeply troubled to learn that AIM had vanished out of existence, leaving behind only a huge crater in the place where the village had once been. He wondered if any of the orphans he trained in AIM for a while had survived because he had heard some rumors about the leader there having a strong dojutsu. If they belonged to AIM? If they belonged to the Akatsuki group? If yes, did they manage to flee before AIM was destroyed? When Jiraiya personally went to investigate, All he had discovered was the decomposing head of Zetsu and a broken spiral mask that was said to belong to the one known as Tobi. "Oh, will you calm down, Jiraiya? You can go one day without peeping on women in the hot springs," Hiruzen said, sitting next to his former pupil and supporting himself with a cane now that the puppetry division had replaced his damaged leg with a prosthetic from Suna. Jiraiya shot back at Hiruzen, sensing he was being watched from all sides. "That's not why I am nervous, sensei. I just feel as if something bad is going to happen. Like Tsunade is going to appear out of thin air and kill me like only a woman with her knowledge of the human body can." And not every one of them was cordial. Not too long afterward, everyone was seated at the altar where Uchiha Sasuke stood wearing a suit and tie and practically grinning. "Victory is mine," was an elderly fire monk from the fire temple. The Uchiha was obviously having too much fun and planned to continue enjoying today long into tonight. Before long, music began to play, and all heads turned to watch the stunning white-dressed woman as she slowly made her way down the aisle. And my, what a flawless woman she was. That is, if you ignored the grimace that was now plastered on her face as she vowed to marry the man she was going to marry. I almost want to see this wedding happen, if only to watch it turn into the Uchiha's personal funeral the moment their marriage is made official by the monk. Almost, Kurama said with a grin on his face. As the fire monk talked on and on about love, devotion, and how these two represented opposite matches coming together in a great union, the figure thought to herself, "I have something else in mind." Not that the fire monk was totally off. A match that was made in hell, added to which is a wicked, unholy union, hee. No one was expected to object, but a few did want to since they knew Hinata wasn't doing this out of love or devotion. "If these two should not be wed for any reason, please speak now or forever hold your peace," the fire monk said. She was made to do this. It was the exact opposite of what love is all about. The dark figure in the back answered, "I object to this wedding, marriage, and everything about this charade put together by greed, people desiring power." Naturally, shocked civilians let out loud gasps. Anger filled growls from a few shinobi present, all of which intensified as soon as the Crimson Uzu appeared for everyone to see and began strolling calmly down the aisle. A few of the Konoha shinobi in the room pulled out their weapons, while others shifted to keep Danzo and the fire daimyo safe. A faint chuckle left Crimson Uzu's form as if Uchiha had just told a joke. "Who are you to deny me what is mine? Who are you to deny me?" Uchiha Sasuke, the Biju killer and future Hokage of Konoha, demanded Sasuke. Crimson Uzu said, "Biju killer? You? What Biju did you kill exactly? You didn't kill the one. Tails, or 2, or 3, or 4 through 6, and certainly not 7 or 8, as Sasuke grinned. Sasuke, his eyes now in the shape of the Sharingan and spinning wildly, exclaimed, "You forgot about the 9th. The Kyuubi. I killed it and its weak jailer. I am the greatest Uchiha since Madara and I did what no one has ever done before in the history of the ninja world. I killed the mightiest of the Biju." Sasuke looked furious, and his supporters looked equally incensed at having the Uchiha called a liar. "I see. I can understand where you're coming from with such bragging rights. Such a feat would indeed make you the greatest of all the shinobi in the world. If it would be true," Crimson Uzu said. Hinata, who was growing angrier by the moment as she heard this, was on the verge of stabbing the Uchiha in the heart to stop it forever when Crimson Uzu let out a cold, cruel laugh. "It is true. I killed them both. I used that weakling Naruto as a shield against the enemy's projectiles in Nami and threw him off the bridge afterwards so he died a watery death," yelled Sasuke. Crimson Uzu exclaimed, shocking many with gasps of shock, horror, fear, and for some, joy. "Now that is where you are wrong, Uchiha Sasuke. You see, Uzumaki Naruto didn't die that day on the bridge at Nami. Oh no, in fact, he is very much alive." Sasuke, who appeared prepared to call forth a Chidori and send it slicing through the mystery man's chest in an instant, exclaimed, "What? How do you know this? Who told you such things?" Crimson Uzu said, "No one told me this, lie, Uchiha, as to how I know Uzumaki Naruto is alive. Well, he is standing here, right in front of you, and to the surprise of everyone in the room, he took off his cloth and straw hat to reveal Uzumaki Naruto's mature face." Hinata exclaimed, "Naruto-kun," as she finally saw him and could feel the heat rising on her face from his attractive face. "Hi Hinata. Chan. Sorry I made you cry after believing I was dead for so long. I hope you understand why I couldn't come back to Konoha when I was presumed dead. The people here showed their true colors when they heard of my demise at the hands of Sasuke Teme back in Nami. Not only that, but I had to keep training, and to get stronger without having my potential being suppressed by the idiots running this village. Man, do I have quite the story to tell you later, Naruto responded with an understanding grin that made the girl even more blush. Sasuke yelled, "You won't be telling my future wife anything, loser. Die, Chidori," before he proceeded to use his lightning jutsu to stab Naruto. But before the Uchiha could even launch itself down the aisle, Naruto managed to easily sidestep the blow, grab the arm, and break it at the elbow. Sasuke became enraged and quickly stood up, ordering multiple medics to move in to fix his arm. Danzo snapped his fingers and sent his root to encircle Naruto with his weapons drawn while this was going on. "Uzumaki Naruto, for your desertion of this village and other crimes you have done since being born, as the current Hokage of Konoha, I Shimura Danzo, hereby order your arrest and imprisonment for the remainder of your life. Or until a proper vessel can be found so we can extract the Kyuubi from you and place the Biju into a new vessel," instructed Danzo while Naruto was scowling at him. Naruto said, "Really? You want to play that card, Danzo? I have enough dirt on you to start a one-sided shinobi war," as Danzo scowled at him. Naruto laughed at Danzo as he answered, "You have nothing on me, boy. Even if you did, I have full immunity from such things the moment I became Hokage. Not when you keep doing it after becoming Hokage. Besides, you only got that position using that Sharingan eye you have hidden away behind those bandages. Not to mention the Sharingan eyes you harvested from the Uchiha clan following their failed rebellion and grafted to the arm filled with Senju Hashirama's DNA. Orochimaru's own notes on the subject when I raided his base holding the documents were very precise," responded Naruto. Sasuke was staring at Danzo with disbelief. While Naruto continued to sneer, Sasuke yelled, "What do you mean he took the eyes from my clan? What failed rebellion? My clan was massacred by Itachi to test his power. You mean he didn't tell you? Huh? That's rich, after all these years of being loyal to this village. The truth about your clan planning a coup was still kept from you? Judging from the looks on the other clan heads and the seething faces of the shinobi elders, I see a lot of things were kept hidden. Not surprising, since those who knew of the coup also were the ones who gave the order to Itachi to kill his clan to prevent the coup from weakening Konoha in what they feared would be a civil war," replied Naruto with a look of rage eyes. Demanding, Danzo glared at Naruto, "And the part about harvesting my clan's eyes?" was Sasuke's question. Danzo was told to go to his root nin and silence him. Only for Hinata's hands to use her gentle fist to strike 3 of them in the vital areas of their bodies, causing them to fall dead. With a single swing of Naruto's fire-breathing sword, the other 3 were eliminated from existence. It's not possible. The fabled Uzumaki clan sword believed to have been lost during Uzu's collapse. The renowned Murasama Crimson, knowing from old history books featuring the Uzumaki clan that only an Uzumaki clan head could wield such a sword, Jiraiya thought in terror. Sword decided who was deserving. Not in reverse order. Sorry, but I don't like being interrupted when I am telling certain people a painful truth that needs to be told. Now where was I? Oh yes. The harvesting of the Sharingan eyes from Sasuke. Tami's backstabbing clan. After Itachi carried out the order to kill everyone in his clan, except for the emo currently seething in anger over here, Danzo had his root agents swoop in to take the eyes out of all the corpses while they were still fresh. Why? Because Danzo theorized that in using the Sharingan, mixed with the Mokuton of the Senju DNA of Hashirama, he could effectively use powers taboo even to the Uchiha, and even control a Biju or a Jinchuriki should one ever cross his path. Namely me, replied Naruto as Danzo tightened the stick he was holding. Naruto, stop this. You're going too far, exclaimed Hiruzen as Naruto's smile vanished from his face and was replaced with a chilly scowl directed at the former Hokage. Hiruzen started to perspire a little at Naruto's words, "Do not speak to me about going too far, old man. You are no better than Danzo and no less guilty. Of course, what would one expect from the man who betrayed the Uzumaki clan, and left them to die at the hands of their enemies in the Second Shinobi War?" Naruto yelled. Hiruzen shot back, "I don't know what you are talking about, Naruto," as Naruto's expression grew even more icy. "Do you? Think long and hard about that answer, you son of a bitch. Would I really make that accusation unless I knew without question your involvement in such a betrayal? Of Konoha selling out my clan when they needed its aid the one time out of countless others in the Second Shinobi War. The Uzumaki clan saved Konoha from being destroyed well over 100 times in the one instant where we asked for aid. You did nothing. No aid, no reinforcements. In fact, the only way that Uzu and the Uzumaki clan could have fallen was if the invading force had inside help from someone who knew the defenses well. The only people who could have done that were you, the shinobi elders, Danzo, Orochimaru, and of course, you Ero. Sennin, replied Naruto while glaring now at the frightened Sannin. Me? What do you mean? Jiraiya questioned, her sense of impending doom deepening with every second. You were in Uzu the day my mother was to leave it for Konoha. You asked for a tour of the island to inspect the Fuinjutsu there for research purposes and expand your own in the hopes of adding something similar to Konoha's walls. But in truth, you disabled quite a few of them, and left with my mother for Konoha just days prior to the attack on Uzu, replied Naruto as Jiraiya started to sweat heavily. How is that known to him? He could not possibly be aware of that. There is currently no one in Uzu who can tell him that, since the Sandaime had given him orders to secure Kushina for the transfer of Kyuubi as well as to make sure Uzu lost vital defenses in case the enemy attacked. Jiraiya had these thoughts. Naruto snapped his fingers and a small army of Uzu shinobi emerged from the shadows. Come now Jiraiya. Just because Uzu fell didn't mean the Uzumaki clan fell with it. You should know better than to assume my clan would simply die out so easily after Konoha's betrayal, Naruto replied. A few of them had already bloodstains on them from all the guards they had slain before they even got inside the temple. They were still alive. They remained hidden the entire time they were alive. Danzo, Jiraiya, Homura, Kaharu, Hiruzen, and all those aware of the clan thought. While he saw Sasuke foaming at the mouth at seeing not only him alive, but also with a clan, family, and love that the Uchiha himself had lost, Naruto answered, it is true the clan did scatter to the winds, but that didn't mean they were few in number like Konoha assumed they would once Uzu fell. In fact, the only reason they didn't come together sooner was due to an Uzumaki clan head being around to unite them since none were worthy to be one. At least of course. Until I came around to make us whole again. After dealing with the commoner in front of him who dared to not only live past the time set by someone of elite blood, but also to regain his family and be loved by them, Sasuke would deal with Danzo and his supporters later. It was demeaning. It wasn't fair. There are no second chances at happiness for common people. If you were impoverished, you remained so. You don't get a second family if you never had one or if you lost your first one in some way. That was the state of affairs. What was common, remained common. They had no business becoming a member of the elite. The elites remained elites only. That was the way things were supposed to be. Naruto laughed at Sasuke as he yelled, you are a loser. I don't care that you are from a clan. It's filled with a bunch of weaklings who couldn't defend themselves properly. Didn't you just hear me, Sasuke? The Uzumaki clan was attacked by all of the shinobi villages. Suna, Iwa, Kumo, Kiri, and Konoha due to their backstabbing ways to allow the other four get past Uzu's defenses. Even then, the number of losses suffered by those four shinobi villages made them lose any thirst for battle. It was why Suna became allies with Konoha in the first place because the Uzumaki clan was still considered as much on paper and didn't have the strength to face its neighbor. Iwa and Kumo suffered the most from it, which was why the former wanted my mother dead, and the latter wanted to use her to make more Uzumaki clan members they could control. Kiri's own losses helped plant the seeds of how bloodline users were nothing but trouble, which only grew when Yondaime Mizukage, and Jinchuriki was used as a puppet by the leader of the Akatsuki to start the bloodline purge. As for Konoha, they wanted to keep the Kyuubi in Konoha because they knew by that point, without the fox in the village, well, they would easily be wiped out by the other Jinchuriki from the other four villages, and only an Uzumaki can hold the Kyuubi within them, replied Naruto while giving a smug smirk to the scowling figures who had a hand in his suffering. I do have a name you know, growled Kurama. And you want this to be heard by these moron? I believed you to be particular about who knew your name. With a growl from Kurama, Naruto thought. Given that Kurama was particular about who knew his name, he answered, point taken. Besides, they would never acknowledge your existence. Naruto saw the Biju inside of him nod once more. They would sooner denounce it, claiming a Biju can't, won't, and don't have names, he thought. He's right, sensei. You should have known better, a man wearing a shinobi uniform similar to that of the Uzumaki clan said as he entered the temple. The young man's hair was red. The man's dojutsu really caught everyone's attention, even though his speech was lengthy and abrasive. A dojutsu that was limited to folklore. Narratives of how a single individual possessed this type of dojutsu, and that individual was none other than the Sixth Path Sage. The Rinnegan. N. Nagato, exclaimed Jiraiya, as the man going by the name Nagato nodded. Jiraiya, it's been a long time. A few years less for the current Hokage you serve, Nagato said as Konan made her appearance in her customary paper form. Jiraiya questioned, Conan? You're alive too? As Conan nodded. Conan shot a furious glance at Danzo, remembering the old war hawk from before, saying, "Yes, I am." Though such a thing wouldn't have been possible if not for Yahiko. He gave his life for us after Hanzo laid a trap for us under false pretenses, with Danzo's help. Jiraiya exclaimed, "What?" as Nagato arched an eyebrow. "You didn't know? I find that hard to believe, all things considered, with your spy network feeding you and the former Hokage standing next to you information during that time. In fact, I would find it a bit disappointing in your skills as a spy master to not know about Danzo making a deal with Hanzo to help him become Hokage in the future after helping in the defeat of the Akatsuki. Before the fake Madara came to corrupt us," replied Nagato with a scowl. Jiraiya asked, "Fake Madara?" as she watched Nagato reach into his pockets and take out a storage scroll to reveal what was within. The face of Uchiha Obito, the man with the scars. Kakashi yelled, "Obito, what did you do to him?" Naruto chuckled at this. "What we did? We did nothing. Nothing. It was Obito who did everything. He survived his death all those years ago, Kakashi. Believe it or not, Madara did not die at the hands of Senju Hashirama. He made everyone think and believe it in order to prepare his plan for the future. But he got old and his injuries fighting Hashirama were piling up. When Obito died, in the mission your team had, Madara saved his body and brought him back to be his, well, I guess you could say, apprentice to carry on his work. After Madara did die, Obito was strong enough at the time, and went out into the world to find you. To find Rin. Let them know he was alive. He planned to come back to Konoha to tell them what happened and hoped to be welcomed with open arms. The only problem with that was when he finally found you and Rin. He saw you had driven your prized assassination jutsu through her chest," replied Naruto, since he made sure to disable Obito's powers before he made the Uchiha confess everything since Madara saved his life. Kakashi, who was forced to do what he didn't want to do but had no choice in the matter, exclaimed in horror, He saw that? Rin had been transformed into an unstable Jinchuriki. To save Konoha, he had no choice but to murder her. Yes, he did. Your former teammate went psycho because of it. He realized the only way to see Rin again was under a powerful genjutsu his Sharingan has with the Tsukuyomi, but on grander scale. Using the 9 Biju sealed into one entity that was the Jubi, which the Sage of Sixth Paths once fought, he would possess the beast, its power, and use the genjutsu on the moon to create the infinite Tsukuyomi, so everyone would be affected by it. With him in control, everything would be as he wanted it, and Obito would have his precious Rin back. Even if the girl herself was just a fake illusion formed from his own mind, answered Naruto, while Kakashi had no idea that would happen thanks to his actions. I drove Obito crazy? Kakashi was horrified to realize this. So the man set things into motion. First, he made the Mizukage and Jinchuriki Yagura become his puppet before ordering the man to have a bloodline purge. Of course, he did need some form of justification for the move, or else the Mizukage's actions would look weird to people both inside and outside of Kiri. Hence why he influenced the Kagaya clan with his Sharingan to make them give into their bloodlust. After attacking Kiri, the people within the village would support such a move made by the Mizukage. At the same time, Obito knew the people with bloodlines would either die, flee, or fight back against Yagura. The latter of the three would further weaken Kiri further in the process when it was over, so no one with bloodlines there could oppose the Sharingan or possible oppose him. Since Kiri turned Rin into an unstable Jinchuriki, he felt it was only fitting to use it against them. I imagine he took their actions against her personally. Though your actions didn't help much either, replied Naruto coldly at the end. I didn't want to kill Rin. She was my teammate, my friend, you said it yourself. She had become a Jinchuriki of the three. Tails and her seal used was unstable. It was the only way to save Konoha. To save her, Kakashi said in a whisper. Don't feed me that crap, Kakashi. Konoha had 3 skilled seal masters at the time of the incident. Arrow, Sennin, my father, and my mother. Either one of them could have fixed the seal to prevent her from being turned into a ticking time bomb. Not to mention my mother had her chakra chains, so even if the Biju got out, the 3 Tails could have been restrained from causing additional damage like Kiri wanted, Naruto said, making Kakashi wince as he realized his actions had been the easy way out and hadn't given things enough thought. He is correct. I didn't act rationally. If I had wanted to, I could have rushed Rin to Kushina or Minato, and they could have fixed the seal, saving her from death. I made a mistake. As Kakashi's guilt for that instant only grew, he thought. He is aware of his parents. How? Who alerted him? Did the clan Uzumaki? Danzo, Hiruzen, Homura, and Kaharu quietly glanced at the other members of the Uzumaki clan. After I killed Obito, I decided Nagato here deserved a second chance at life since Danzo nearly ruined it from the start, and my cousin was reduced to being crippled with puppets being his means of using his power. Fortunately, I had found yet another Uzumaki clan member named Karen, who was once with Orochimaru of all people for a time as his subordinate, and with special healing abilities she possessed I was able to have her heal him, replied Naruto before turning to Sasuke. If you think I will be intimidated by your clan, then you are mistaken, demon filth. Look around us. Do you really think these other shinobi villages will tolerate your clan being here? They easily will side with Konoha and do what they tried to do during the Second Shinobi War by ending the Uzumaki clan once and for all. Danzo said while staring at the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. Naruto asked, "Oh really, tell me Tsuchikage. Sama, will you side with Konoha if we choose to get violent here today?" As the elderly Kage gave a grumpy growl and gave Danzo a startled look. "Never, I know it was him and his root filth that tried to kidnap my granddaughter last year so she could be used as a breeding factory in secret. Even worse, he planned to have the Uchiha brat here be among the ones to violate her in the hopes that she would one day give Konoha a strong child through their combined genetics," replied the Tsuchikage with rage as his granddaughter looked at him. With the Tsuchikage nodding, Naruto said, "Yes, I know. I tipped you off about that. And I was the one who helped kill half of those root nin while your granddaughter did the rest. I trust that makes things even between Iwa and my family on my father's side." Even though he knew that Iwa and the Yondaime Hokage still harbored some animosity, his son had essentially cleared the air by preventing Konoha from carrying out such heinous deed. Naruto smirked and retorted, "So what? Iwa is weak. We still have Kumo," to Danzo. "You might be right about that if the Sandaime Raikage was still in charge, but that man over there is not the Sandaime Raikage. He is the Yondaime Raikage, and his brother is also the 8-tailed Jinchuriki on his right, and there is still the Ni Yugito, the 2-tailed Jinchuriki, on his left. Additionally, I informed Kumo that it was because of you that Konoha accused their village of stealing Hinata that evening," replied Naruto. Danzo started to perspire at that point, while Heishi and Hinata appeared perplexed. Naruto nodded in agreement as Heishi argued, "What do you mean? Of course Kumo did it. I killed the head ninja ambassador myself that night while he held the back holding Hinata." "Yes. The head ninja ambassador from Kumo did steal Hinata-chan that night. But he did not do it under the orders of Kumo in any shape or form. He did it because Danzo ordered him to do it, you see. That man was not a real Kumo shinobi. He was a root nin spying for Danzo to find out the identities of other Jinchuriki in Kumo. Danzo didn't want just one powerful Biju or Jinchuriki in Konoha. He wanted as many of us as possible to be brought back to fight for this village as violent weapons of war under his command. But unlike myself and the Mizukage, the other villages kept theirs a secret for security reasons. The head ninja was in fact his spy to find them in Kumo, but the Yondaime Raikage had appointed the man as the ambassador to broker the desired peace treaty with Konoha before he could find out. To that end, Danzo decided to create a certain situation we are all familiar with. Only his plan involved the aftermath of the incident being very much different, where Kumo would have to give Konoha at least one of their Jinchuriki as reparations for violating the peace treaty signed that very night, answered Naruto while Heishi glared at Danzo for this since it cost him his twin brother and gained him the scorn of his nephew Neji in the process. Heishi whispered, "That's why he was able to get so far with Hinata when I saw him that night," and Naruto nodded. What Danzo didn't suspect was a certain blonde-haired boy, who had been kicked out of the orphanage that very night, spiking his chakra in anger. That chakra spike easily told you something was off because it was so close to your clan home. After that, well, you all know the rest. The head ninja ambassador was killed by a citizen of Konoha. Kumo had perfect deniability on their end since no one gave the order to him. There was no true way to prove the man did what Konoha accused him of doing for Kumo since instant death by gentle fist basically wiped out his mind, so Yamanaka couldn't find actually anything in his head that would be called incriminating. Not that it mattered since I suspect Danzo would have had one his root nin from the Yamanaka clan do the scan to not only wipe out his own involvement, but plant false proof to get what he wanted from Kumo for when he planned to have the man captured for interrogation, said Naruto while Heishi felt like he was going to have a heart attack. My own household. My sibling. Used as pawns in a cunning plan, and all for something I never imagined happening in this village. My apologies, Hizashi. Even though you were the second child between us, you were much more deserving of the title of clan head than I was, thought Heishi as tears started to well up in his eyes. This startled Neji, who was standing next to his uncle at the time. It was basically Konoha's word against Kumo's, and at the time, the latter had the upper hand in terms of muscle to fight the former. Not surprising, since Kumo had 2 well-trained Jinchuriki from against 1 from Konoha that did not appreciate him and was too young to fight back. So Hiruzen did the only thing he could do in this situation to show his village was the better one in a moral sense, if you will. He decided to bend the knee like a good little politician and offered Hyuga Heishi up as a peace offering. The man didn't even consider the idea of any other form of appeasement. Just sacrifice the Hyuga clan head and be done with it. Like ripping off a bandage and throw the bandage away in the trash. What no one outside of those who were part of the conspiracy on Konoha's side realized was his twin brother, Hyuga Hazashi, had the Cagebird seal, and took Hiashi's place. Also, there would be peace between the 2 villages, and to ensure Kumo still could not get the Byakugan, thus protect the Hyuga clan. Now there was a brave man worthy of being Hokage. Because unlike the former Sandaime and Danzo here, that man chose to make the sacrificial play for the good of all so everyone else could live, said Naruto while Danzo grit his teeth since he recalled how his plan failed because of what Heishi did. Even so, he was unaware that Naruto had inadvertently joined the occasion. Kumo wanted peace with Konoha. When we heard that Konoha had killed my chosen ambassador in the middle of the night and even accusing him of kidnapping the Hyuga heiress, I demanded justice. Justice for the life they had taken, justice for the lie they were telling, and justice for violating a peace treaty so soon after it had been signed. Of course, had I known the ambassador I sent was in fact a Rutanin spy, I would have spit on his grave, and destroyed the grave marker, said as he looked at Danzo for his actions that were close to causing war between the 2 towns. As for Suna, I doubt the current Kazekage will side with you, Danzo. After all, Gaara is not only a fellow Jinchuriki, but also a dear friend of mine, and I fixed his seal so it wouldn't cause him insomnia problems. Not to mention it was because myself and my clan's own advice to him that he is on good terms with his siblings. Even his former Junin sensei is his most trusted advisor, said Naruto, receiving a nod from Suna. This is not possible. Danzo pondered, wondering why more of his root hadn't emerged from the shadows to defend him. Naruto continued, grinning at the expression on Danzo's face that indicated the old war hawk was probably thinking, Kiri won't fight for you here either because of what one member of the Uchiha clan did to their previous Mizukage and the fact you exploited those with bloodlines running away from the civil war. How you captured so many refugees, taking them underneath Konoha to be conditioned as Rutenins or for breeding purposes. Undoubtedly, he was wondering why they weren't there to assist him and where his beloved Rutenin in the shadows was. Oh no. How is this known to him? Where are my roots, by the way? As he peered at the shadows for his forces, Danzo thought to himself. And came up empty. Where had they disappeared to? If you think I would fight for such an ugly man like you, Danzo, then your eyesight has clearly aged with the rest of your body, Terumi Mei said, her eyes glimmering with desire for the elderly warhawk. Naruto said in a chilly tone, see Danzo. You are alone. You have nothing. No one will save you now. You forget, boy, that I am the Hokage and as such, I command every ninja in this village whether they like it or not. I outnumber you with my forces in this room regardless if the cages here don't fight for me, Danzo said, making Naruto laugh at the irony of his phrase that the other cages would fight alongside him in this situation rather than for him. Ah yes. Now on to the fact that your Rutenin who were hiding in the shadows of this place have not shown up to come to your defense. What many in this room don't know, is that Danzo had an army of Rutenin hidden in the shadows of this place. Also he could give the order to massacre every important person not from Konoha once the wedding was over. All in the name of the greater good, when in fact, it would just be for Danzo's benefit. To use the ensuing chaos of all 4 villages being leaderless so he could order his forces to take out the other shinobi villages. Also he could claim the spoils of war for himself. Not Konoha. Himself, so he could write the history books of Konoha with their blood and call himself the greatest Hokage ever due to his schemes ending the other 4 major shinobi villages. Something I made sure each cage here with the exception of Danzo, for obvious reasons, were aware of before coming here, explained Naruto while Danzo's face went as pale as Orochimaru's at being caught with his secret plot exposed. This is not possible. As I watched many of the shinobi from the other 4 villages rise to their feet and brandish their hidden weapons while glaring at the warhawk, Danzo thought to himself. Naruto glanced knowingly at Sasuke and Kakashi, but they were still unaware of his words. As for those hiding in the shadows, I politely asked the lovely Mizukage here if I could borrow 1 if not 2 of her Kiri shinobi. She was most generous when I asked for 2 of them specifically, he continued. Flatterer. If only I hadn't gotten married to my own man and you hadn't fallen in love with the Hyuga. Looking at both Naruto and the Hyuga girl, Mei thought to herself, what a husband you would have made me. Zabuza appeared from the shadows of the ceiling above, accompanied by a familiar looking hunter nin in disguise. Well, what did you expect, Gaki? One doesn't say no to the Crimson Uzu and walk away without some kind of injury, said a voice that Kakashi knew all too well. Zabuza smiled behind his bandages as Kakashi exclaimed, Zabuza? And, Haku? That's right. I got to say, Kakashi, you bet on the wrong horse when it came to seeing who had the greatest potential in your genin team. The pink-haired one had no business being a genin. The Uchiha was a power-hungry idiot like the rest of his clan. As for the blonde here, let's just say if I had known of his potential all those years ago, I would have tried to recruit and trained him to be an unstoppable juggernaut, replied Zabuza with a giggle and gave Naruto a small bow as Haku nodded. He did, in fact, owe the child. The brat not only developed into a formidable shinobi, but he also assisted his clan in defeating Yagura, demonstrating that the man was not the monster that everyone believed him to be during his rule over Kiri. Yagura was still alive and was living in isolation far from everything because he wanted to live a life free of violence and bloodshed after being overcome with guilt over the incident. After Mei had transformed into the Mizukage and stabilized Kiri sufficiently for him to meet the woman's predecessor, Zabuza met him. Even if the Sharingan had made the Jinchuriki insane, it was obvious to the demon of the mist that Yagura would live a life beset by guilt and regret. Meeting the man to talk about his past as the Mizukage of Kiri and the horror he had unleashed as a puppet ruler was enough punishment in Zabuza's mind. The psycho known as the Yondaime Mizukage was dead in the eyes of both men. Yagura was dead, as far as the world was concerned, and he had no intention of coming back until it was absolutely necessary to stop the world from ending at that precise moment. With a cunning smile directed at Sasuke, Naruto said, which brings us back to the Uchiha and all those who had a hand in the suffering of others inside and outside of its walls in the pursuit of power. Sasuke yelled, his rage obviously approaching or surpassing the point of insanity. It doesn't matter who is on your side, loser. I am a Uchiha. An elite. I am Kami's gift to these people. I am the reason these pathetic weaklings live and I have the power to make them all die. While clenching his teeth and attempting to form another Chidori with his other arm, Sasuke taunted Naruto. Oh really? Because you didn't make me die the last time we saw each other, Sasuke. Oh, and unlike last time, I have no intention of being your pawn, shield, or sacrifice to pull off a win. This time I will kill you. I will do it in front of the Hyuga bitch here. All she did when everyone believed you were dead was hurt anyone bad-mouthing your memory. This insufferable woman truly loves you. Everyone knew it. Everyone thought it was funny how the one stupid girl in this whole stupid village actually liked the stupidest person in it. Sasuke said with a look of insanity in. Sasuke's eyes narrowed and then widened as he realized what Naruto was talking about regarding Sakura. I know, Sasuke. I am well aware of Hinata-chan's feelings. Thanks to my clan, I saw how much of an idiot I was for not seeing it. Shame it couldn't be said about you and Sakura. Though I doubt you cared about her despite knowing the Banshee's feelings towards you being on a fanatical level. I mean, given how she was nothing more than an Uchiha-loving slut, who would spread her legs for you if asked isn't much of a comparison to Hinata-chan, said Naruto. Sasuke cried out, it was you killed Sakura, as Naruto grinned at him. While observing that many people were shocked that the blonde had actually killed his own former teammate, Naruto asked nonchalantly, yes I did. What's your point? I thought you didn't like her. I didn't like her. She was a useless fangirl, who only got promoted to Chunin due to her book smarts and taking a written test. But I never thought you of all people would kill her given your crush on Sakura, replied Sasuke as Naruto sighed. What can I say? The bitch wasn't my type. At the same time, I wanted to see just how far lost she truly was in terms of being my teammate and as a friend. She didn't know who I was at first, meeting me on her mission and thought I was a harmless wanderer. The girl never even considered I could be someone important, high-standing, or even a dangerous missing nin. Our so-called sensei really dropped the ball when it came to training her to look underneath the underneath. Though what would expect when he spent most of his time training a brooding emo determined to avenge his clan. Anyway, when I finally did mention myself in third person in an offhanded way, I saw Sakura's true colors, and they were not pretty in the slightest. She went on and on about me being a loser. How she was glad I was dead so she didn't have to deal with my annoying self, as Sakura put it. How she could spend her time focusing on how to get your affection while not having to deal with mine. How to one day make you finally confess your love for her and settle down to form a family together. How her only regret was not having helped you in killing me in order to form that special bond lovers need to really connect with one another, explained Naruto, while seeing not many of those in the room were shocked that Sakura said those things about him. It was obvious that she had said similar things in front of others before when Naruto was brought up in conversation. With his Chidori ready to be launched from his remaining working hand, Sasuke demanded, "So you killed her? Out of what? Anger? Spite? Knowing she had wanted me and would never love you?" "Please. I killed her because she was a bitch. A loyal lapdog of the people in this village, who would sooner spit on my father's sacrifice to save them all from death, than even make the effort in getting to know me. They didn't care about my father or my mother, it didn't matter, he was the Hokage and she was his wife. All that mattered to them was that someone suffered and they chose me. Even some of these people knew who my parents were, but did they care? No. Just as they don't really care about you, Sasuke. You think these people care about you being Uchiha? Huh. They only care about your eyes and the ability to help make more Uchiha babies. Take that away and what do the people see? A pathetic waste of space they would sooner walk over or step on if it meant getting to their next destination in life. You don't matter, Sasuke. Only your bloodline and dojutsu do," replied Naruto. "It doesn't matter. When I'm Hokage, I will make everyone understand what it means to cross me, or make themselves believe they are my equal. I will see to it that everything and everyone is controlled by the Uchiha clan. Finances, jutsus, the people, whether they are civilians, shinobi, or those from clans. Even the bloodlines themselves will be the property of the Uchiha clan," Sasuke exclaimed as he proceeded to kill. After thinking, "I'm still thinking with all the muscles except the one that counts, and even then, it's decayed to the point of being useless even if he used it." Naruto shot ahead of the Uchiha in a crimson flash, moving faster than anyone could have predicted. And in a matter of seconds, Uchiha Sasuke turned into bits of bloody meat that dropped to the ground. He killed Sasuke as if it were nothing at all, everyone who was unaware of Naruto's full range of abilities thought. Naruto glared at Danzo, knowing full well that the man had not only kept the curse of hatred in Sasuke but also encouraged it to spread throughout the village in order to use it as a tool and weapon for his own schemes. That everyone is how you deal with those who spread the curse of hatred to others around them. You don't tolerate them. You don't embrace them in friendship in hopes that it will make them grow some kind of conscience and stop being evil. You don't spoil them with countless offerings of money, jutsus, and promises of being in a position of power. You kill them. That is what you do. You stamp it out by putting your foot to their throat and make it go crunch," Naruto exclaimed, glaring at Danzo. And he was not the only one who thought so. Trying to win over the boy he once knew, Hiruzen said, "Naruto, stop this. You've made your point. There is no need for further bloodshed." "That is where you are wrong, old monkey. You see, this village owes the Uzumaki clan, myself, and every village here a big fat debt. A debt that will be paid in blood and with the lives of those who demand it be paid in full. Fortunately, a good chunk of the people who owe us this massive debt are all here in this temple where this unholy wedding was to take place," replied Naruto as Hiruzen started to sweat heavily. "For someone who says we should stamp out the curse of hatred, you are embracing it quite well, Gaki. I didn't think you would be a hypocrite of all things. Your parents would be ashamed of you," Jiraiya protested, and Naruto giggled. "Really? From a man who abandoned his own godson? Who abandoned him to the caprices and schemes of the hostile village? Naturally, I would anticipate such behavior from a man who betrayed his own teammate years prior by ordering her lover Dan and her brother Nawaki to be killed," answered Naruto, as Jiraiya jerked back his head as if struck. What? A tense Jiraiya questioned. "Come now, Jiraiya. Don't deny it. We both know you and Danzo each had a hand in the death of those two. Dan's mission at the time was top secret. Few knew about it. Yet he was ambushed all the same by enemy shinobi in the end. How do you think that could have happened? It couldn't have happened, unless someone on the inside made it happen so Tsunade wouldn't marry Dan in the future. That someone was you, Jiraiya," replied Naruto as Jiraiya murmured. Jiraiya finally objected, saying, "You have no proof. Now you see, that is where you are wrong. After I helped out the Tsuchikage with the issue surrounding his granddaughter, he decided to give me some information about that moment in time. You see, Iwa shinobi were indeed the ones responsible for killing Dan during that secret mission, but they would have never known about him actually being a Konoha shinobi had they not been tipped off by one of your spies from your network. Your spy tipped them off on your orders, Jiraiya. I have seen the proof myself. And just so you know, Tsunade and Shizune have too," replied Naruto, his face turning pale. To the point that he might have Orochimaru replied. "They know?" Jiraiya trembled in fear. "I also know it was through your spy network and Danzo's machination that her brother, Senju Nawaki, died during his mission too." Though why you got involved in that mess is a bit of a puzzle since you gained nothing from the boy's death. So why help Danzo kill the boy in the first place? Asked Naruto with Jiraiya staring at Danzo. I helped because the bloodline limit of the Senju was dying out. Tsunade couldn't use it and Iwaki was questionable at best. They were the last two Senju in existence without the Mokuton bloodline to back it up. Orochimaru and Danzo approached me and Hiruzen about the possibility of keeping the Mokuton alive through those outside of the clan via human experimentation. Basically, blood splicing Senju blood with other people to give them the ability to produce the Mokuton that Hashirama could use, if not the sweetened skills Tobirama himself had. We had some of Hashirama's blood and cells on file for possible use, but they were old, and slightly decayed from being in the cold storage unit for so long. Orochimaru theorized we could rejuvenate them if mixed with blood of someone who was a direct descendant of his line. Nawaki was the only option since tests showed Tsunade's ability to use it was dormant as a recessive trait. By mixing the power behind the old blood of Hashirama with the new blood of his grandson Nawaki, Orochimaru believed we could bring about the maximum potential for the Mokuton to come out in a test subject, replied Jiraiya while Naruto shook his head. And in all the illegal experiments done to people, only one person survived the process in using the Mokuton. Even then, it was a shadow of what Hashirama himself could have done at his weakest. All he could do was the standard Mokuton. He didn't even have the ability to suppress a Biju like Hashirama could with his own bloodline, said Naruto as Jiraiya gasped. Jiraiya said, I know, and I'm sorry, just as killer intent suddenly descended upon him and he slowly, if not terrifiedly, looked up. Tsunade, who had heard everything, jumped from her position above and descended on Jiraiya, saying, Sorry? You're sorry? Clearly you're not sorry enough. Oh shit, Jiraiya muttered as he saw Tsunade, decked out in full Uzumaki clan ninja regalia, charging toward him. And delivered a single punch that tore straight into the Toad Sage, causing his body to explode as Tsunade made contact with his form. Bone, flesh, blood, and guts burst everywhere, sending people nearby the impact zone hurtling through the air. Nobody in Konoha was able to move, much less comprehend what had just occurred, and those who could were actually pretty terrified. As Hiruzen protested, Tsunade, stop this madness. You are a Senju. Your grandfather and granduncle would not have wanted this. The woman grabbed him and forced him to confront her blood-soaked form. My family on both sides have been bled dry by this village. The Senju and the Uzumaki clans were always the first to defend Konoha and the last to gain anything in return from it. We didn't mind it since we loved this village and we were proud to fight for it. But we also expected that such loyalty and love would be returned by those we gave it to in the process. Give and take sensei. You didn't give it back, you just took it and never once tried to return it. Tsunade growled at him. I know. I was jealous. Jealous of the Senju and Uzumaki clan. All that power. All those skills I could never hope to achieve. All within clans greater than mine. I was constantly in the shadow of both and I couldn't get around it. When the opportunity came to weaken or remove either clan from the history books and memories of the next generation, I took it, Hiruzen admitted while Tsunade appeared even more. Tsunade yelled, yet you kept the Uchiha clan around. The traitors and usurpers of life itself. Hiruzen winced in response. They were next. Your granduncle planted the seeds of distrust years ago when he was the Hokage. Danzo and I merely allowed it to grow. After the Kyuubi attack, many were easily convinced someone from the Uchiha clan had something to do with it. Eventually, the Uchiha clan could not take all the resentment the village was actually showing them, and planned a coup against the village to take control. We used it as an excuse to use one of their own to spy and eventually kill off the clan to leave a single remaining survivor in the form of Uchiha Sasuke. We decided to keep the Uchiha clan alive because of their eyes being capable of controlling the Biju and the bloodline itself was more reliable in awakening than the Mokuton or the chakra chains some of the Uzumaki clan possessed, replied Hiruzen while his conspirators on the issue scowled at him for confessing this to Tsunade. And mold them into a clan you could control without them even knowing it. Inflate their ego, make them loved, and important all the while using it as a means to manipulate them into being your puppets, Tsunade said while Hiruzen nodded. Yes. Hiruzen answered simply. I used to think of you as an idol. I used to see you as a substitute father to me after mine passed away. Now I see you as just a crippled old man with grandiose delusions, Tsunade uttered before tearing out and crushing the man's heart with her hands. Kaharu angrily protested, Tsunade. You had no right to do that to Hiruzen. Naruto snapped his fingers, causing the sound to reverberate throughout the temple. Actually, we have every right. Which is why I think it's only fair, given Konoha's own version of providing us with such generous hospitality today at this wedding, that we in turn give it back, he replied. And that's when everything went haywire. Soon after, ninja from the Uzumaki clan, Hinata, Naruto, and the other 4 shinobi villages moved together as a single group. Nagato essentially tore into any Konoha member who got in his way, while Konan killed Homura and Kaharu and the remaining root nin near Danzo. As the fire monk attempted to move to attack Naruto, Hinata killed him. Meanwhile, Naruto defeated the entire civilian council in an attempt to escape their miserable lives. In actuality, a large number of Konoha residents who were killed in the temple rather than subdued were those who backed the leader's policies. Though Naruto didn't want Konoha to end due to the actions of a few in power, neither the rookies nor their senseis were slain. That would not be correct. That would enable them to continue being hypocrites and harbor the curse of hatred. Konoha had the potential to regain its glory as a shinobi village, but only if the toxic branches and roots that were causing it to deteriorate were removed. Furthermore, Naruto was sure Konohamaru would become a fantastic Hokage in the future. Since their last encounter, which took place when Naruto was only 12 years old and had just graduated from the academy, the boy had developed into a capable ninja over the years. The boy would eventually emerge from his evil grandfather's shadow and become the true Hokage that he had always desired to be. When it was all over, a large number of Konoha residents had died inside the now blood-stained temple. Naruto personally selected those who were not killed in order to capture, restrain, and allow fate to decide their fate later. But for the most part, they didn't need to worry because Naruto wanted to kill the officials who were allowing corrupt activities to occur in the village as well as the stupid, haughty people who lived there. Danzo was the only person among the dead or captured who could not be identified. Nagato said, "I sense him. He won't get far," and then he, Konan, Hinata, and Naruto set out to find the man. "Are you sure you want to ruin your wedding dress in this fight, Hinata-chan? I mean, it's already ruined with being torn up and covered in blood, but still. Do you want to make it worse? It actually looked good on you." When it was whole, Naruto asked, his eyes meeting Hinata's worn-out wedding gown, which despite its current state still managed to make her look stunning. "That man deserves to die. I lost my uncle because of his machinations. He used my clan for his own ambitions, Naruto-kun. He wanted to use you as a weapon of war," hinted Hinata to Naruto's whistle. "Oh my goodness, Hinata-chan, you sound so fierce right now. It's such a turn-on," said Naruto, causing Hinata to flush a lovely shade of red. Hinata tried to be angry, but she couldn't be angry with him. Don't say things like that. I'm somewhat mad at you for making me think you were dead all this time," she replied. "I love how endearing his smile is." As Nagato said, "Hey, you two can catch up and be all lovey dovey later. We have an old warhawk to kill. Make out time comes about after he's dead." Hinata and Naruto blushed. Naruto responded, "Oh, like you are one to talk. I seem to recall you and Konan getting all lovey dovey in the afternoon just yesterday," which made Nagato and Konan blush because they had been caught in such a moment. "I told you someone was watching us," Konan muttered, flushed, and glaring at Nagato with a mix of, "I told you so," and, "You are making this up to me later," expressions. "I apologize," Nagato muttered before they discovered Danzo attempting to escape through Konoha's streets while attempting to liberate his hidden limb. It's difficult being an elderly man with a cane and chakra that can only do so much to ease the burden of aging. Naruto taunted, "Going somewhere, Danzo? I thought a Hokage was supposed to stand and fight against all odds for the good of Konoha? Hardly. The Hokage is the most valuable person in all of Konoha. Only the Hokage can run the village and therefore the Hokage must never fight unless absolutely necessary. In fact, it is the duty of every shinobi in the village to defend him with their lives, and give them when necessary to ensure the life of the Hokage is never taken," replied Danzo as he released the arm Orochimaru had him to use. Nagato said, "Damn, that thing is fucking ugly," upon witnessing the disfigured arm with all of those Sharingan eyes surgically implanted into it. "Bullshit. If what you say is true, then why usurp those who came before you as Hokage? Why usurp the Sandaime? Or my father the Yondaime Hokage? Don't bother denying it, Danzo. I know you tried to gain power in secret during both their times as Hokage. You even did it during the time when the Nidaime Hokage was still alive," replied Naruto as Danzo continued to scowl. Danzo yelled, ripping off the bandage covering his face to reveal his Sharingan eye, because none of them were worthy of being the Hokage. "I was the only one. Me? Those fools wanted the love of the people in order to unite them. Instead, they should have just forced them to obey rather than asking," and used their superior skills to enforce it. Such weak emotional sentiment toward people make ninja weak. For an old man, you sure do sound like a whiny little child seeing every other child get the one toy you want, but you yourself can't have. And to make matters worse, you even decide to make everyone else who does have said toy very miserable, said Nagato as Danzo stared at him. Danzo answered, I don't have to justify myself to you or the Uzumaki clan, while Naruto merely grinned. As Danzo began to prepare his chakra to use his various Mokuton jutsus taken from the Senju clan in order to combat them, Naruto asked, I don't expect you to justify it, Danzo. You have nothing on hand to possibly justify your past actions. You can claim to be a patriot of Konoha all you want. But we know for a fact, you did all the things you did for yourself. Not Konoha. Just you. You sacrificed everyone and everything around you carelessly just to stay alive a little bit longer. But what happens when there is nothing on your side left to sacrifice? But yourself. What will you do then, Danzo? Naruto asked. Only to discover that his enhanced arm had been struck all over with what appeared to be a bone kunai and senbon needles. Kimimaro apologized to Naruto Sama for being late, saying, I was delayed by the remaining detachment of Root Nin you ordered me to kill. Haku then materialized next to Kimimaro. Naruto responded, both of them bowing slightly in response, nonsense Kimimaro. You are right on time. Same with you Haku. Good job with your use of your deadly precision with the needles and bone kunai on your part. As always, it is most impressive. My eyes that share. Every one of them struck my arm. If they land a deadly blow on me, I will be unable to use either the Mokuton jutsus or the Izanagi. Danzo pondered for a moment before turning to see Naruto approaching him. Naruto said, the sword in its sheath seeming to glow like it was eager to kill its intended target, I would have let Nagato and Konan kill you for what was done to them, but something tells me if we drag this out, you'll do something dangerous and desperate to kill us all. So I'm going to end this quickly so your backup plan doesn't even have a small percentage of success. With his eyes blazing with rage, Danzo declared, you won't get the chance to stop me. I won't allow you to outlive me in this world. I am its one true god. I was meant to live forever and rule over everyone around me. Not you. Not the Yondaime. Not the Sandaime. Not Orochimaru or the Akatsuki. I was going to be this world's savior. He then exposed his chest so the seal would appear. Nagato grinned and said, well, will you look at that, the old man does have emotions after all. I owe Naruto some money. Damn. Naruto muttered, a savior saves the world from destruction, Danzo. They don't enslave it like you wanted to do. Your description of yourself is more along the lines of that of a tyrant, before making his move too quickly for Danzo's remaining Sharingan eye to follow. In less than a second, Naruto unleashed his blade from its sheath and sliced the Warhawk in half horizontally, right down the center where the intricate seal on his body lay. With his wounds from being sliced open by the heat from the blade already cauterizing, Danzo spat out a gurgled curse at the blonde as he fell backwards. In addition, he sensed that both of his arms had been severed at the elbow, and he was in a prone position on the ground, hardly able to raise his head. You stupid brat. Don't you get it? The world will not stop fighting unless a central force or entity is the one controlling the rest of the world. Konoha was going to be that central force. That entity. Without the other shinobi villages to stop us, we could have moved into an era of controlled peace. We could have kept all the future wars this world went through small and controllable, but still necessary to advance ourselves from becoming stagnant. Without someone like me in charge of this village, this world will continue to fall into chaos, and will only get worse as time goes by, Danzo said as his enemies surrounded him. If that were true, Danzo, you wouldn't have caused so much pain and hardship for the rest of the world. You wouldn't have kidnapped children to turn into emotionless rude pawns. You wouldn't have manipulated Hanzo to betray the Akatsuki when they could have had peace and united together to end the fighting around AIM. You wouldn't have allied with Orochimaru and acquired this blood-spliced abomination for an arm meant to subdue Jinchuriki and Biju alike. You didn't want to save the world from itself, Danzo. You tried to enslave it. You tried to control it. You wanted to be this world's god and rule over all with an emotionless attachment to it. Also, any action done, good or ill to the people, would be felt without an ounce of guilt. You wanted to become a true god, which is why you spent so much time watching, spying, and monitoring the actions of those already pursuing different forms of immortality. When the time was right, you could swoop in later to claim the one that fit you best. Until then, you were simply content to let yourself have god powers of sorts with all these Sharingan eyes, and Senju DNA to cheat death, explained Naruto while Danzo spat out some of his blood right at the Jinchuriki's feet. As his life dwindled to darkness, Danzo exclaimed, "I am the only one who can save this world. You have killed the one person capable of bringing about true peace. No, I killed a tyrant who cared for nothing or no one but himself. I killed a man who was so afraid of death, he chose to go so far as to kill others in the pursuit of cheating it, and become a god in the belief gods can't die," replied Naruto as Danzo began to gurgle blood. Danzo muttered, "Gods can't die," and then his head rolled back and his life left his body. When it comes down to it, it really is all about their lifespan. Actually, they do die, Danzo. The main difference between us and them is they live a lot longer, Naruto answered, stabbing Danzo in the eye while he was holding the Sharingan and then drawing the sword. "This isn't genjutsu. This is Shimura Danzo's actual body," declared Nagato, making sure Danzo didn't try to pull a fast one on them by activating his Rinnegan. "Agreed," Hinata replied as she realized there was no genjutsu used to trick them and saw the body with her Byakugan. Naruto, Hinata by his side, walked away from the body and felt the heat from the fire jutsu used to burn Danzo's corpse seconds later. Burn the body. The last thing anyone in this world needs is for someone to come along and pick up the pieces of this filth to replicate what happened to him, he replied. Hinata questioned, "Who do you think will take over as Hokage once everything settles down?" Naruto shrugged in response. "Don't know. It's hard to say with so many shinobi from Konoha, who supported Danzo, and his viper's nest of slime now dead. The next Hokage will have to be someone strong, yet wise enough to remove the stain of dishonor on it. Someone who won't let the seed or the hat go to their head. Regardless of whoever is chosen, I trust the next Hokage won't do anything to get revenge on us, or the other 4 shinobi villages," said Naruto as he glanced over at the Hyuga and grinned at her. Hinata said, "You could do it. You could be Hokage," but Naruto shook his head. "No, that dream was a lie. The Sandaime put that lie in my head so I would stay loyal to Konoha. To strive for an impossible dream and never give up in trying to achieve it. He knew Konoha would never accept me in the village long after he died. He also knew I would never be Hokage. I secretly checked all the laws pertaining to being qualified for the position. The old bastard had laws put in place to deny a Jinchuriki the right to being the Hokage on ground that Jinchuriki are frontline assault units in war and a Hokage needs to be behind his shinobi to give them commands. My father had actually repealed the law when he was Hokage so my mother could apply for it in the event something happened to him during his reign. But when the Sandaime came back, he reversed my father's decision, and made even stricter laws surrounding it, so the only way it could be repealed again was if all the council members and clan heads agreed to the repeal of the law," replied Naruto with Hinata looking at him in shock. Hinata remarked, "That's terrible," and Naruto nodded. "Yeah. The law is still in effect even now. Not that it matters to me. If the next Hokage manages to reverse it, I still won't try to run for the position. I have too many duties and responsibilities as the Uzumaki clan head. I basically rule over all of Uzu now that is fully up and running," said Naruto as Hinata sighed. As Hinata asked, Naruto chuckled nervously. "Surely there is one among them worthy of being your wife and future mother of your children." "I see. And just who is your future wife among your clan going to be?" "Well, I'll confess that I received a few marriage proposals from the clan's female members, but I never accepted," Naruto answered. Hinata was taken aback that he had declined, as she was certain that her crush was in love with a woman from the clan, if not elsewhere, who would have wanted to be his wife. "Oh, for what reason is that the case?" Curious, Hinata asked. "Even though they were all wonderful candidates to become my wives in the future, my heart was already set on someone else." "You precisely," replied Naruto, causing Hinata to look shocked and flushed. "Me? Why me?" Assuming he had passed away 4 long years ago, Hinata was perplexed as to why the blonde would show interest in her. "Because my clan raised me during that time and taught me a lot about what to look for in a partner. In terms of supporting me in leading the clan and being the person I would want as my future wife. With their assistance, I was able to see Sakura for the awful person that she really was and delve deeper within myself to find that someone special. Looking back on my memories, I realized you had a serious crush on me because you were always following me and blushing when I looked in your direction," answered Naruto, causing Hinata to blush even more at being informed that she had been following him. "It was really awkward. I apologize if I came across as a stalker. I couldn't understand why it was that so many people detested you. I became increasingly interested in you as I watched you, and I kind of envied you for putting up with everyone's hatred of you. The way you never gave up." Hinata, who appeared to be her previous bashful self, remarked, "How you kept on trying no matter how hard people knocked you down and tried to keep you down. I'm grateful." After all of that, I made the decision to follow you on my own and spy on you to see how you would respond when the village announced my death to the public. Hinata blushed even more as Naruto continued. I was very flattered, implying that he had noticed her more aggressive side when it came to those who had disparaged him. As Hinata said, they had no right to say and do all those horrible things about you. Naruto grinned. Naruto answered, no, but it was refreshing to see that out of everyone in the village, you were among the very rare few who actually showed they gave a damn. And then he took Hinata's hand and squeezed it tenderly. Hinata muttered, I'm not that special, as Naruto gave her hand a tender squeeze once more. Not based on what I've observed. Come on. With the Hyuga next to him nodding, Naruto said, let's deal with the fallout from this and move on. After years. Epilogue, after the infamous Crimson Wedding, Konoha slowly but surely began to regain its glory in the years that followed. It had not been simple, by any means. The village suffered greatly after Naruto exposed some of Konoha's dark secrets, which effectively made them the world's most hated public enemy due to all the misdeeds committed by Danzo during his tenure as Hokage. Not just Danzo, but also the former Sandaime Hokage, Kaharu, Homura, Jiraiya, and even a few Anbu commanders they intended to follow to the letter. Luckily, all of these people were now dead, and Konoha had a new Hokage ruling over it. Someone who would make sure the village learned from the mistakes that two of the previous three Hokages had made in their place. Maida Guy is his name. Yes, the same Maida Guy who constantly talks about the flames of youth and exercises his seemingly unusual bundle of energy to his heart's content every day. But at this moment, he was fighting the one enemy that, despite his usual energy, filled self's best efforts, even his usual energy, filled self was unable to defeat. The greatest and most infamous enemy who was the bane of all cages and daimyos alike. Documentation. Though it wasn't as if Guy didn't have support, his former team arrived to assist him in his duties. The aftermath of the Crimson Wedding had been difficult for them, the other rookies, and their fellow senseis. Sarutobi Konohamaru was selected to succeed the man as the title holder and was often observed sitting in on meetings with him to observe how things were done so he could pick up tips from him. After being imprisoned in a cell in Uzu due to his repeated failures not only as a Junin but also as a sensei to Team 7, and of course showing partiality by training only Sasuke, not to mention teaching him the Chidori. During that period, Kakashi even had his Sharingan eyes surgically removed by Tsunade before Naruto destroyed the eye itself. Not only that, but Heishi was also sent to the prison in Uzu for his own crimes against Hinata, which included arranging the marriage with the Uchiha. Many in the main family weren't happy about this, but they didn't have much of an option because the Hyuga clan was in serious trouble with the Uzumaki clan. What wasn't known by anyone outside of the Uzumaki clan or the Hyuga clan main family was the history of how the cage bird seal came to be. The Uzumaki clan had created a bloodline protection seal for the Hyuga clan long before the shinobi villages were established. The seal's overall goal was to do what the cage bird seal did, with the exception of causing severe pain to the brain's nerve centers, which could fry if kept active for an extended period of time. The more credulous and gullible members of the clan were given the newly renamed cage bird seal by the Hyuga clan after they altered the seal into what they still use today, even though they had promised not to change it. These members later learned of the deception, too late, and witnessed generation after generation of their family members within the clan being forced into enslavement in all but name. The only difference between then and now is that Naruto set it up so the seal could only be applied on the back of the neck of the Hyuga it was placed on. He also secretly designed it with safeguards within the major complex parts of the seal itself to protect the new seal against tampering so it could not be altered by a Hyuga with delusions of enslaving certain parts of the clan again. However, after Naruto brought the issue to the attention of Hinata, it became moot because he not only found a way to break the seal, but also gave the Hyuga clan a new seal to protect their bloodline. Regarding the Hyuga clan's future, it was determined that Neji, who was regarded as one of the strongest members of the clan, would take the lead. Hanabi was conflicted about this decision because, even before Hinata was set up to marry the Uchiha, she had been prepared to become the new clan head and succeed her father. But with the Hyuga elders dead and Heishi imprisoned with his own bloodline sealed within the prison of Uzu, the leader of the clan everyone now wanted was Neji. Hanabi could have challenged the boy for the right to lead the Hyuga clan, but she knew deep down that Neji was indeed the superior fighter between them and that she would ultimately lose. This was because the elders felt that Hinata's newly found strength following the Kyuubi Jinchuriki's assumed death was too much for them to handle. For this reason, they felt that her marriage to the Uchiha was a safer choice to lead. To maintain the strength of the clan, it was best to let the legitimate leader take the lead and support them as needed. The shinobi villages changed their own ways too, namely regarding their Jinchuriki and how they were treated. Kumo had of course shown their two Jinchuriki could achieve so much when loved and respected by their village. Which Naruto had pointed out happened thanks to his father mentioning it to A and to B years ago after he fought them at one point in time. The Uzumaki clan head even went to point out that mistreating Jinchuriki could only make things worse, as they could be ticking time bombs if hit with enough abuse that their minds snap. While he didn't want them to go so far as say spoil them or even kiss their ass needlessly, Naruto did point out that a beloved Jinchuriki brought out their full potential. Namely due to them wanting to fight to protect their home. Not to mention their loyalty to the village when the time came to defend it would be considered unquestionable. In the end, life for his Jinchuriki brothers and sisters were looking up, and Naruto couldn't be happier about it. Even so, B's rapping continued to be a pain in the ass. Neither Tsunade nor Shizune ever again set foot in Konoha. Instead, they took what they wanted from the Senju clan home and relocated to Uzu, where Tsunade fell in love with an Uzumaki and eventually became a mother again, all with the help of Shizune, who offered to be a surrogate mother using Tsunade's eggs that she had frozen in storage when she turned 30, but was too old to conceive naturally at that point. Having a child of her own and Shizune by her side to help provide twice the motherly love made Tsunade feel whole again. It was hardly shocking when Nagato married Konan. The couple had a son they named Yahiko after their old friend. During this time they discovered that although suffering can, in some ways, lead to understanding, true human bonds were formed through love. They vowed to raise the boy to be a strong adult who would be cherished by his fellow Uzumaki clan members. Regarding Naruto, he managed Uzu's affairs and the Uzumaki clan overall with his new spouse, Uzumaki Hyuga Hinata. Her experience in managing a clan enabled her to assist with any other clan related issues that arose, not that many, but some did. One such issue was Konoha's desire to win back both his and the Uzumaki clan's favor by re-establishing their former alliance. Something that was very much unlikely to occur in the near future. In the end, everything was right in Naruto's world. His enemies were dead, he had alliances with the other 4 shinobi villages, and he was now a family man with his clan to support him. Of course, he made sure that his duties as the Uzumaki clan head didn't get in the way of him being a loving husband, and eventually a loving father after Hinata became pregnant with his child. Naruto almost wished Sasuke hadn't been so stupid to have used him as a human shield before throwing him off the bridge to die a watery grave, and to think, all it took was for some power. Hungry brooding emo for Uchiha to use him as a human shield. The Uzumaki clan, the real heir to the will of the Sage of Six Paths in seeking peace, had triumphed over the Uchiha clan.
That's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this great story. See you in the next one.